I got a squad on my right.
Running in for backup.
Yo, Ron, he's right there in front of you.
Sorry guys, it happened again.
Damn, that's the 10th one today.
All right, I'm back.
Someone cover me.
You got him, you got him. Yo, that's sweet.
Yeah, it is. We about to win this.
I can get used to this.
HyperX Alloy. Built strong because it has to be.
So we actually have a variety of programs for the Esports Association. One is career readiness. So we actually work with the Career Center here to better prepare our association members to learn those life skills that they are going to need so that when they make that transition over to a career pathway.
Awesome. This guy, we gotta turn around. This guy wins almost every tournament we throw. I'm telling you. You gotta watch him live. He's gonna be something big.
CSUDH Esports Association is centered in 4 domains: academics and research, community engagement, competition, and entertainment.
We're trying to make sure that the students are prepared for the future, that they understand the diversity that media offers now, and again, look beyond the traditional outlets.
They can gain fieldwork, partnerships, as well as potential job opportunities, and in both the higher education and K-12 fields.
We believe that esports is a strategy and not an outcome. Our association is here to help anyone that is willing to learn how to take your gaming skills to the next level through a supporting community. If you are looking to showcase your production talents to help support our esports teams, then this is the association for you. We host online and on-site tournaments that will allow our members to showcase their competitive spirit. Our association broadcasts out our competition and practices to entertain our community as well as our global audience. We believe that by joining us, you will come out of the association feeling transformed and better prepared to transfer your skills into your career. Join today and begin to explore endless opportunities through our Esports Association here at Cal State Dominguez Hills.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Esports Talk session. I am your host and moderator, Ruben Caputo, here from Cal State Dominguez Hills Esports. I am delighted to introduce our next special guest and topic. But before we do that, just a couple of announcements. And if I may share with everybody, we are dedicating all of our streams to an Extra Life Foundation in the effort to help the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. All of your in-kind donations is greatly appreciated. You can find the link in our Twitch channel below. And also that we have various social media outlets that obviously support us, help us grow our community. You can leave a like, feedback, subscribe, all that good stuff. And also a big shout out to our sponsors in HyperX, who is our official gaming peripheral partner. This particular mic is sponsored by HyperX, and this is the Quadcast HX mic QC, and the descriptions can be found below. All right, without any further ado, let's jump into it. Today's topic is going beyond the game. And with us today, we have Josh Tolbert, aka Coach Metal from Fresno State Esports, joining us today. Coach, thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Coach Metal, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just started off with how did essentially you get started? How did you get started in dabbling into gaming and then moving your way up to coaching and providing that kind of support system?
Whew, that goes way back. I grew up with gaming. I mean, I had a best friend that I lived right next to, and we just gamed to the wee hours of the morning on every console you could possibly think of. So I've had gaming in my life for so long. Um, so yeah, I've played countless hours of League of Legends, Overwatch, like every game out there I've probably played. I really started with my competitive esports started with Halo. So I was actually a semi-pro in Halo. Me and my neighbor were on we traveled to MLG tournaments, and that's where I really fell in love with competitive esports.
Excellent. My goodness. So you have a rich history there. I can hear it. And,
Yeah.
Just again, when you started with the process of playing esports, what was it about gaming and that you started into the competitive space? I mean, walk us through that. Like, did you always know you wanted to do competitive gaming, or was it just something that you just slowly but surely gravitated towards?
I would say gravitated towards. So there was a lot of other passions I had. I was in a band for probably 6 to 7 years. I played a lot of sports. I played soccer for probably about 9 years. I played basketball on the high school team. So I was very active. But considering I grew up with gaming, it never really left me, and it was something I just continued doing past playing music, past sports. I just kept gaming, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I stayed competitive for the most part. Nothing too crazy, but still playing competitive. And then I pretty much fell in love with Overwatch. The strategy of it really kind of blew my mind when I dug deeper into the game itself. On the outside, it just looks like a first-person shooter, but on the inside, it's a highly complex game. It's probably one of the most complex first-person shooter games out there.
I love that, how you dive deep into the game aspect of it, and then even going further, which again, it leads us to our topic. If you could explain and elaborate, a lot of the aspects of a game that compiles this whole element of strategy, but we know, hey, what we're doing is going beyond that, right? Pushing those barriers that maybe perhaps those that may not know even the game of Overwatch or games similar to Overwatch, how much detail it actually takes what you're seeing in the interface level. If you could maybe just elaborate a little bit on it. I know that's probably a big question to ask.
That's a really hard question to ask, honestly, because it's so incredibly complex. Every set every character in the game of Overwatch comes with something it adds to this puzzle piece. So if you take a character out and add another one in, your win conditions change, your strategy changes, everything kind of changes within the game itself. So it's highly dynamic in that way, and that's where all the complexity comes in. There's no one character that is the same and accomplishes the same thing, right? So they all accomplish different tasks, and they're all picked for different reasons. And when that happens, the dynamic of the game completely changes. The strategy of the game completely changes. How you attack, how you defend. It's very complicated. So if I wouldn't mind like diving into a comp or at a later date or something like that, because that's where I could truly kind of give you a lot more detail. But to keep it simplistic without me ranting on for quite some time, yeah, I mean, I think it's just a very complex game, and we'll somewhat leave it at that. But if you ask me what competitive gaming means to me, I would say I would actually simplify it to like keywords, and that's competition, dedication, passion, teamwork, and mentality.
Love it. Love it. No, a great choice of words there, Coach. And I think what it brings forward for those that are looking to take those steps into the competitive spaces is very interesting, right? You really have to start asking those questions, what you just laid out. Can I take a step forward, and what does that look like? So as you coach and help support, on the collegiate level, students that are entering, what are some of the things that you do to acclimate them into, okay, what you've done prior to the space, entering in the collegiate side where there is another degree and level? how do you transition them into that role mentality?
Well, that's also a deep question, but I'll try to tackle that one. What I do first and foremost is I build a relationship. I feel like that's the most important thing as a coach. When a player is coming in, you have to build that trust. You have to build that solid relationship that they can rely on, and start to build them up. It comes in many facets, of course. You build them up to become a better version of themselves as much as possible. And that doesn't mean in game, that means out of game as well, in all facets of their life. So yeah, I try to really just build a relationship, build trust, and from there, great things flourish.
Excellent, excellent. And have you noticed, when students are making that transition to recognize, okay, I want to further deepen my level of skill.
Mhm.
If they come in groups, perhaps, hey, like you mentioned, you really build a good relationship and rapport with your neighbor, and that's how you started your esports career, if you will. Have you noticed that kind of trend, or is it just more on a random scale of an individual just taking that step forward?
It's normally random. I think at first when we were building it, it was more of a core of a group, trying to establish a culture in a way. I think that's also very important. When you get a group of people, you start to build a winning culture and build the camaraderie, the teamwork, establish team meetings where you can build, have team meetings or team bonding sessions where they can really get to know each other, how each other tick, and what it takes as a teammate to make the other player feel a lot more comfortable. And there's so much more to the individual than you would probably think. And I think when you see these players on the outside, you don't always understand why they may act that way or why they may say specific things. But when you truly understand deep down where they're coming from and why they're coming from that direction, that's where it really starts to make sense as a teammate.
I love that. Well said, Coach. I mean, I definitely hear really the substance there of, again, we haven't even talked about the game per se.
Mhm.
It's more of these key element aspects that have a lot of the human skill development side to build that network, that community, the aligning of the passions, if you will,
Mhm.
to even just assemble the team, to even get into the gameplay. And if I may ask to Coach Metal, to further unpack the experiences, what you've noticed from students that may have played organized but without a coach, and then now they finally get to have a coach. What have you noticed that has become perhaps challenging, or what has been, the aha moment of, hey, these are a lot of delta changes that you're noticing that is enhancing and improving their gameplay?
That's a good question. So I would say without a coach, you have the potential of teams falling apart. You don't have anybody to really be the middleman and sit them down. So oftentimes with a team, you have disagreements or frustrations, and if those aren't sat down with the entire team and spoken about, it's going to sit and it's going to fester within the team and create a toxic environment. So if you sit down and mediate with the players and have a team meeting where every player gets to voice a frustration on every single other player, and it kind of voice their expectations of them in game and out of game, that could be a really special moment for a team that really opens a lot of doors.
Yeah, I think you're speaking so true with those words. I've also have noticed that has been the biggest X factor, if you will.
Mhm.
Implementing the coaches, someone that is right there with them, and you know that in itself. I mean, we may think, well, we could do without a coach, but I think if you're really ready to take that next serious step,
Mhm.
having the opportunity to work with someone that can provide you the feedback, the ability to even just resolve conflicts, to avoid any kind of further conflicts or disruptions up ahead.
Right. And
for a
that's
lot
just
of
the head coaching side too. So there's
Yeah.
also the Overwatch side to it, where you have to obviously build structure, make sure the communication is great, build a hierarchy of communication structure within the game as well. So there's a lot of other concepts that a head coach, when established, can build some really impactful things that create sustainability within the team as well.
Yeah, right on, right on. And I mean, perhaps if you don't mind, Coach Metal, just walk us through perhaps a scenario that you've had to diffuse. I mean, for those coaches that are listening out there right now, or revisiting the talk, what is it that you would recommend? You know, hey, these are things that really help me as tools, as best practices, so that I was able to handle a situation that will come up. You know what I mean? It's almost inevitable. Things like this do come up. It's never perfect. So
Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
no, yeah.
I would actually say I do a lot of preventive maintenance. So I go in, and when I'm building that trust and that bond, I myself figure out how they tick as best as possible. I like to believe that I have the ability to read players and read people, and how they act the way they do and why they act the way they do. And I try to work it out in my head. So when a player has a frustration, I'm pretty aware of what's going on and why they're thinking that way or why they're feeling that way. So it's really just sitting them down, making sure that we have all our ducks in a row. So that also doesn't mean I sit down both players at the same time. I talk to each player individually. I get their side of the story. I get the team side of the story too. So if this is done inside of the team, you also have to get the opinions of everybody else and then try to make that conclusion, sit them down together, figure out what had happened. And by that time, you should really know your players. You should really understand where they're coming from. And it shouldn't be a very hard thing to kind of get through and iron out.
Gosh, thank you for sharing that and walking us through it. I mean, it's so much easier said than done. We chuckle because we know
right
that it takes some effort and time
right
to ensure that, hey, there are emotions involved, right? And even for those that have played in the competitive space, we understand, right? I think everybody that has done it understand there is this factor that we all put in. But for those that may be learning for the first time, what you're seeing is a lot of practice, like you said, tons of discipline, and you want something to work. And if it's not working, we have to revisit the drawing board and talk about it and review. It's difficult when we have competitive spirits, which is great, but they also have to cool engines down so that we can get to that resolution piece. Which
I have a player, or at least I won't say if it's previous or past, because I try to protect their identity in a way. But this player was recently arguing, or somewhat recently arguing, and he was the shot caller. He was really just kind of being over aggressive. And then when we had our team meeting, that's when he opened up and really said that he has anxiety, and he has all of these other interpersonal issues going on. And he started like getting emotional about it. He started kind of breaking down. And in a way, that opens doors for your teammates to understand where he's coming from and why his frustrations were happening that way. So that's where team meetings can be extremely impactful for a team environment, to really let those frustrations out and let your teammates in, let them in and realize where you're coming from. So on the outside, yeah, you may look like a jerk at times, but that's only coming from pure competitive spirit in nature, right? So that's exactly what you said. So I thought that was well said, because that's often the time. And teammates need to realize this and understand how a person ticks in a way. And it's sometimes not always easy to understand unless a coach is there kind of mediating the conversation and allowing everybody to kind of come in and help that player. And the bonds that are created, And the mending that comes from this is, it's impactful. It's really impactful.
Oh, thank you, Coach, for sharing that. I think what you just said, sheds a lot of light in why, again, the importance and relevance of a coach, what it means to be a coach in that space, because like you said, you're going to be opening doors that could even be breakthrough opportunities for students that are pursuing it in the competitive space, and whether that's their pursuit or other pursuits to help them essentially become a better person in itself, like you mentioned earlier in the program. No, right on. And, even from some of the experiences that I've heard from other coaches, that's something that stays consistent, which is what I love about the aspect of even coaching in whether it's the collegiate field or the professional field, or, even through the high school spectrum. It's something that opens up, it's, again, it's never usually about the game per se. It's outside factors that I think as coaches, we understand there is this level of, understanding that we are helping cultivating young minds.
Yes.
To think how to work in small groups, in communities, to make bigger impacts in the long run.
Right.
Well said, Coach. And I did get a question from the chat, and thank you, chat, for inputting your question. And for anybody in chat, you're always welcome to input any questions for our guests. The question is, as head coach, how do you improve some of your players' skills?
That's kind of a long question too. So there is a lot I do with a micro. So I know I haven't given much of like where I'm at as a coach, but I normally coach 4-4 at Fresno State. I brought him from a 4-0 to 4-4. I coach within the tier 3 environment. So I've had a lot of experiences in the semi-professional as well, which has helped me grow as a strategic coach. But I always kind of knew what I wanted to do in the mental aspect of it. So what I do to help is obviously help them become a better version of themselves, right? That's out of the game, and that's the head coaching side. But the Overwatch side, there's a lot of one-on-ones that happen, a lot of macro coaching that happens. So the difference between micro and macro is helping the individual with cooldowns and aim and whatnot. That's all done on a one-on-one. Where macro is the team understanding of what they all should be doing to accomplish one goal, depending on the comp that they're playing, depending on the maps that they're playing. That is all, like I said, very dynamic. So macro is just trying to get the team in on one concept and trying to get them together to accomplish that goal, and that is done in a VOD review. So that could be probably half hour before scrims, probably 4:30 to 5ish. We go over like one part of a map where they really struggled, not a whole 2-hour VOD, because let's be honest, college students aren't going to pay attention for 2 hours, right? So you really want to do like a potent half-hour session where they can you really go hash out their major issues, and then you can kind of go from there. So yeah, VOD reviews with the team, one-on-one sessions, and then just working on the player on a personal level.
No, I love that. And totally agree. It's putting the time with intentional effort to focus your lens, right? It's almost like, you're magnifying what it is that you could improve to get you closer to that next iteration when you're out there competing. And I love that you shared, some of the VOD components. Is there anything else that perhaps, for those that are beginning coaches, or, maybe some other best practices that you would recommend for, let's say, rookie coaches that are out there trying to dabble in the space?
So I would consider two sides of the coin. So really, you're looking at the Overwatch side, and when you're looking at the Overwatch side, when you're new, don't try to come in fixing overcomplicated things. Keep it simple. Fix the largest mistakes first, like communication. Hierarchy within that communication, establishing a captain, all that good stuff. Very simple stuff, and then you can go on to trickling or very basic concepts of Overwatch. And then after that, if you have the skill to keep going, go for it, to hash out more complicated issues. But if not, um, you shouldn't try to change the players and what they're trying to accomplish, or try to play or try to change the team in any way. I would just respect the players and learn from the players. That's really something that you should consider when new and not knowing a lot about the game itself. Because if you go overboard and try to control too much when you don't know too much about the game, it could really tilt players to the point of not really wanting to play under you, to be honest. And then there's the head coaching side, right? Build relationships. Rules without relationships equals rebellion. I've always believed in that. Huge believer in that, because you can't start whistling on people and screaming at them without that relationship there. Even off camera, traditional sports, you'll see on camera the coach is screaming at them at the top of their lungs, but off camera he's in his office and they're the best of friends and he has an amazing relationship with them. So that's the way it should be. You have to establish those bonds. It's impossible to lead without trust and respect, to be honest. Be the rock that these players want and the mentor that they need. Yeah, so no matter the talent level, they're all young adults that are in need of guidance. I mean, that's really what it is. And also one more thing that I would add to that is build a coaching philosophy. So one thing that Eric, our Rocket League coach, he's also a psychology consultant for Team Liquid. Just so you know, he doesn't like to be very. He's not a show off per se, but I'll do it for him. He's a very humble guy. And what had happened was he sat me down and basically said, build a philosophy. And when I did that, that was probably the most impactful thing that I'd ever done as a coach, because I took it seriously. And if you take it seriously, the first question is, I exist as a coach. I exist too. And then you answer that question, right? That was impactful. I mean, I took that serious, and I'll give you some of mine. So, I mean, this is something that I believe to this day. I still look back at it, and as a coach, I exist to help players believe in the power of teamwork, build the base fundamentals of a winning team, encourage positivity, and create better Bulldogs in and out of the arena. Success in one area is not good enough for me as a coach. I have succeeded when players have improved in more than one way. And then the core values, right? Teamwork, bonding, zeal, self-improvement, focus, passion, empathy, empowerment. And then an action statement, teaching students to thrive as gamers, mentoring gamers to develop success, coaching a team to become Bulldogs. I mean, that's something that I thoroughly believe in. And I mean, that's something that I would suggest as a new coach is finding out who you want to be and what type of coach you want to be to these players, what type of core values you hold as a coach. These are all something that can be amazing for you moving forward if you really take that seriously. So I thank Eric a lot for that.
No, thank you, Coach, for that, because what you just shared in Eric's statement, that's so true. The philosophy, that's everything. And I love that you mentioned too, about the people element as well. Don't try to change them.
Right.
They are who they are, and they're young adults, again, looking for guidance. They're taking that step, looking to you for help.
Right.
And we know that perhaps asking for help isn't the easiest thing to do in the first place. It takes some encouragement to do and to begin with. But I love that piece because, again, it is still a very people-like, you have to be that person if you're going to be thinking about becoming a coach, because you're an influencer and helping an encourager when people are down at their worst, because you're going to find them not always in their A game, so to speak.
Yeah, when I sit players down, I ask them, what are your goals? And normally players will give me targets like I want to win it all, or I want to get straight A's. And I also let them know, that doesn't really sound like a goal, right? A goal for me is to make sure that you become the best version of yourself, and not what I want you to become. It's what you want to become.
Right.
And that is also being part of listening to the players and understanding where they're coming from and who they want to be, and trying your best to hold them accountable for that.
Gosh, well said. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then after that, we're going to go in a quick commercial break. But you mentioned something key there. When you have players asking you, "Hey, I want to be a better gamer," what does that typically mean? I mean, as a student asking, "Hey, I'm in the starting point. I just know that I want to be better," and in the areas of gaming.
Mhm.
What kind of response do you give back to the students that say that?
Are you willing to put in the dedication and understand of how much work it's going to take for you to get there? If you're willing to do that and you have the discipline to do it, then I'm there to help you all the way. And that just doesn't come from the game, right? You can become better in the game all you want, but are you willing to be a better teammate and understand what that entails? That is also very impactful. So, yeah. So if you're becoming a better gamer, then yeah, it's gonna entail a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work, and but you have the resources here to get that done. So that's something that I feel like the players should take advantage of and take off, because I've had a tremendous amount of players take off when I've coached them and put a lot of time into them. So if they're willing to give that back, I'm willing to put the time in for them.
That's awesome.
And I also want to thank my assistant coach Ryan for doing that same thing. Ryan has been a centerfold for my B team, and I would be silly not to shout him out. He's been not just the B team, for everything Fresno State Esports, Overwatch. He has been right next to me through everything. I couldn't have found a better assistant coach. So.
Yeah, no, that's excellent, and we'll segue into that. But before we move into the next question, we're going to take a quick commercial break. So don't go anywhere.
All right, I'm ready.
Let's do this.
Time to farm some dubs. Crap, I got a squad on my right.
I'm running in for backup.
Yo, Ron, he's right there in front of you.
Oh, sorry guys, it happened again.
Damn. This is the 10th one today.
All right, I'm back.
Someone cover me.
Yeah, I see you. You got him, you got him, you got him! Yes! Yo, that's sweet.
Yeah, it is. We about to win this.
Guys, I can get used to this.
HyperX alloy, built strong because it has to be.
All right, welcome back. We just took a brief commercial break, and if in case you're joining us just now, we are talking to Josh Tolbert, Coach Metal from Fresno State, Overwatch head coach. Coach, when we were talking earlier, you mentioned again, mad shout outs to assistant coaches. If you don't mind, if we can pick up from there, what does that mean, to a coach, especially like yourself, and for those again that are still dabbling in the space, looking to enter to become, this mentor that we've oftentimes see coaches to be in.
So what exactly was the question? Sorry.
Oh no, all good, all good. So what does it mean to, like, for an assistant coach to play that supporting role to really the person that is supporting the overall?
It's a big help, right? So you're going through this almost essentially alone in a way, not to put anything against anyone else, but I feel like Ryan's been there since day one. really helping with great ideas, coming up with content, helping with always being there at scrims. I mean, you have a partner there to bounce ideas off. I never really made a decision by myself. It was always, getting his second opinion, because I like to, whenever I get negative comment from a player or something like that, that doesn't exactly entail me, but somebody else, I like to think about it. I don't like to emotionally attach myself to anything. I want to sit down. I want to talk about it. I ask Ryan opinions. I really think before I start actually acting out any type of discipline or whatever it may be. Any result, you have to really sit down and think about it. You can't just allow your emotions to affect anything you do when it comes to a justified ruling.
Gosh, great points right there, and just even a good best practice, right? When you're making decisions, because there will be hard decisions.
It will be.
You don't know when it'll happen, but they'll happen.
Yeah.
And as those situations come up or arise, it really helps to have, like you said, someone to bounce off ideas, to get their input.
Absolutely.
Not make the emotional or a reactional decision that might lead into maybe not the best one. Like you said, I love that you said that too, because the whole decision process of how we're going to help the whole team, knowing that it's composed by many individuals to get to those accolades or to get to those goal benchmarks that they're looking to do, and upholding that every single time, even with conflict in the way, because it's just inevitable. But big shout outs to all the assistant coaches, because I don't know how the job is even possible. It would just be 10 times more difficult without the support of assistant.
And you're lucky if you find an assistant coach that matches the amount of passion that you have. That's invaluable, honestly. It really is.
No, awesome. And perhaps, if you don't mind, Coach Matt, I mean, Fresno State, hey, they're no joke. You guys are always out there competing. Maybe share a little bit about just some of these important accolades that Fresno State has accomplished overall, Overwatch or other game titles.
So our first year, spring 2020, we got top 32, which is a great accomplishment for our first year out the gate. And this is nationally. We're talking probably about 525 teams across the nation. We got top 32, and then our following year, which was fall 2020, we got top 16, as well as USF Invitational champions.
Okay.
So that was amazing. I was really proud and happy of the team. So huge, once again, with that many teams across the nation, that I still don't think the community really knows how impactful and how good you have to really be as a team to make that type of accomplishment. So that's something I was really proud of the team for doing. And then this last semester, we got top 32, but that's also because we had players growing, right? We had a player that got an internship. We got a player that got a job and traveled the world. They're growing as individuals, and I couldn't ask for anything more. So I wasn't really upset about it. I said, okay, guys, this is what we're going to have to go with for the semester. We're not going to have as much skim time, but you know what? Players are growing, and I'm okay with that. And that's part of not really thinking about win. I'm thinking about, okay, is this student doing okay in his internship? How's he doing? Like having that conversation and making sure that these players grow and encouraging them to grow. I mean, there's even players that I've gotten student assistant jobs for, and then help them grow in that way too. I mean, there's just a bunch of things that I've helped these players grow from, and Overwatch isn't the only thing in the world, right? We want to make sure they're growing. We want to make sure their academics are awesome. By the way, shout out to two of my players on the A roster, straight A's this last semester.
Hey.
I mean and these are two players that I'm so excited for, because honestly, I wouldn't have thought they would get straight A's like when I first met them. They were so, distant from even academic probation, some of these players. So coming from that and coming to straight A's, I'm so proud of that. And then there's multiple players also that have great GPAs. The GPAs across the team have skyrocketed. I am super proud of everybody on this team. and making sure that they get their academics straightened up. It's been a great process.
Josh, that's awesome, Josh. I mean, what you're doing out there in Fresno, and like you said, for the community, it's definitely no small feat what the team has done overall, and just again the philosophy aspect of it, right? Believing
Absolutely.
what it is that it takes to be a bulldog, and in and out the virtual arena, if you will. Now, if I may ask, for you as a coach, what has been perhaps some of those challenges during the pandemic? What you've done prior, how to make those transitional moves so that way coaching can still be part of the students' lives. What was perhaps some of those challenges for you? Mind sharing?
Not being in the room. I mean, that was probably the biggest one, because that allows the team to, mess around here and there, and not almost not take it as serious at times. They can do a lot of tomfoolery when in the room. They're a lot more focused. And yeah, that we had computer issues for players and internet issues and here and there. That was one of the more difficult issues. On a general aspect, I think recruiting is probably one of the hardest things, because I'm not one to share the limelight, I guess you can say. I don't go out and do a lot of this per se. I'm glad I'm doing it, to be honest, but I that's probably a little bit of what's holding back on a recruitment basis, and maybe at times it could be other things. But recruiting's hard. I think it's not just me that's struggling with it. I think a lot of people are struggling with it. But I did hear that TESPA or ABC is possibly coming out with like a collegiate combine, which would be a fantastic idea. And I think a lot of colleges would benefit from that. So that's something exciting that could possibly, be on the way, that I look forward to. So recruiting could be potentially a lot easier. I think that's really about it, though. I mean, haven't had too many issues, and what I do have, I've been helped with for the most part. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay, no, right on, and that's a good point. What you mentioned about, first of all, being in the room, right? It's a different experience. Right there, there's just more, concentration, focus time, and like you said, but also the tech hurdles that anyone will face just due to connection, bandwidth, what have you.
Right.
But yeah, the combines. I mean, I think that's huge from a recruitment and even just for coaches' lives to be able to talk and engage and see, hey, there's possibilities out here. And again, it takes people like yourself, Coach Metal, like to do that with other coaches within what you're building at Fresno, to even provide the space where students are now more inclined to go, because there's already a community factor element behind it all. It's harder to almost pledge, if you will, if you're having to build it from the ground up. You know what I mean? It's
absolutely,
more heavy lifting than, hey, you know what? We have a support system. We have key people that are helping in the efforts. This is a home. You know what I mean? You almost feel like you're ready to go at that point.
Yeah.
Let's put on a jersey and let's go.
Yeah, and I mean, at the same time, it's not as bad as long as I'm somewhat, I guess you could say, filling seats, because I invest heavily into my players. I mean, like I said, I've already said, most of this talk is investing heavily into them, so I'm not as worried getting some nationally crazy ranked player. I can get a 4K somewhere in the Masters area and make them great players. That I'm perfectly fine with that. I just want to make sure that I'm filling those seats and making sure that we get those players in and they want to compete. Making sure their head is in the right place. And I even ask questions like, do your parents support what you're doing? Because I believe that's important. That's really important. So there's a lot of questions that I do ask, and making sure that they're ready to go, because it does take that certain amount of discipline and dedication.
No, that's a good point, and I love that you share that, because you're right. It's if we're building community, we have to know that we come from many different communities, right? The relationships that we have with parents or even outside of esports, those communities do matter, because they help complete you or help you become, like you said, a better version of yourself.
All right.
Now, Coach Metal, there is another question that came through chat. Thank you so much, chat. What are some good resources for coaches to look at to further learn? Thank you for that question.
That's a great question. So if it's Overwatch, there are some amazing strategists when it comes to Overwatch. There is, okay, Natter is a great one. John Galt, he's an ex-Overwatch coach. Let's see, Spilo is great. Hayes is great. Jane was actually someone I used to love back in the day. Over time, becoming a good strategy coach, little less, but I always loved his enthusiasm and his energy. Let's see, Thor is another good coach. Man, what else is there? I have a long list in my head, but when you ask me directly, it's always going to be a blank, right?
Yeah, well, I would share for anyone on chat, definitely reach out to Coach Metal with any other questions, because Coach has a plethora of resources and can redirect you. So we'll definitely have to leave some, some information so that anybody can follow back. So there's definitely some socials out there.
And even add me on Discord. I'm perfectly okay with that. If you want to add that somewhere, my DMs are always open. Player, coach, I'm always willing to network. I network with so many different people in the Overwatch scene. On top of now the collegiate, I'm trying to branch out more to the collegiate scene and just make friends and make sure that we're bonding and that we push esports in the right direction.
Excellent. And for those in chat, absolutely, there will be a bot after this. You'll be able to find it on our YouTube channel, and we'll be posting key highlights as well on our socials.
Speaking of the right direction, by the way, Ruben,
I
really respect a lot of what you guys are doing over there. A lot of the volunteer work, the positivity. I'm in your Discord, and it's so positive. It's a great environment, and I really respect that. So I want to try to push us in that positive direction too. Volunteering is a very great concept for esports. So I think you're a model esports program as well. So great job of what you're doing over there.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's so key. I mean, when you said earlier about what we're doing outside of the game, again, we haven't even touched Overwatch, which that will be another talk in itself.
Right.
It's all the key elements to just get you ready for the actual gameplay, right? It's making sure you're providing the spaces that feel safe, comfortable to have those courageous conversations.
Right.
Because it's challenges that help us mold us and work as a as a unit to get out there. And and thank you. I appreciate that. And for our Toros that are listening, I know they're very much. We have a big Overwatch community, which they understand that we have to put in time for community efforts. And it has to start with us, right? If it's not us, then who?
Right.
We've got to help other programs to know that there's more to the game.
Absolutely. And that's why I like collegiate, to be honest with you, because I've tried the tier 3 scene. I've tried trialing players where there's only 3 or 4 players on the team, and then you're trialing 2 random people, and it's just it doesn't work out for me. I don't enjoy that type of environment. It's not healthy. Players' mentalities are all over the place. There's no solid structure for them to come into and become that better version of themselves. They're just like, hey, stranger, I don't like you, or I like you, let's play games together. And the coaches are just like win, and at all costs. I don't care if it's your mental, I don't care if it's your personal life, just win, right? So that's not a great structure. It's not a healthy structure for competitive esports. And I feel like collegiate could possibly be that tier 3, that area where up and coming players can get a degree and become a better version of themselves, right? So I think collegiate is where I want to put my efforts, and I really do believe in what we're doing here as a program. So
absolutely. And Josh, just to further that, I mean, I want to definitely echo that, but and for anyone that's listening too, is that there is this great deal with schools that, hey, schools already have cultures, right, already embedded. It starts with leadership, right? It starts with this area of, hey, let's infuse positive cultures or the direction of what the school represents. And being that you're in the same school, and perhaps maybe you don't necessarily get to know, your classmate at this particular, you're not necessarily pursuing the same concentration, but yet you're in a space knowing that there is this objective and goal that you're pursuing together, that there's this almost, layer of school culture that really helps solidify that positive environment that we naturally want to have, right? It's schools have so much power to infuse into creating that space, that in the collegiate or K through the high school level, there is so much opportunity to infuse more school positive cultures that
Absolutely.
again gives you the opportunity to achieve the mountains of accolades, because you're right, there are some other means that they'll throw health and wellness out the window, and it doesn't lead to anything good, because ultimately the biggest tool factor is our minds. That's where esports is, major mental game.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you learn so much, right? I mean, you learn to be that you're not bigger than the team. You set your egos aside, where egos are perfectly fine in the semi-pro league, because coaches don't worry about it. Have an ego, sure, have at it. You learn emotional awareness, because you don't learn that in semi-professional, at least. I mean, good coaches will definitely coach that. Leadership, right? Problem solving, time management, teamwork, social skills. All of those things you're going to learn in a collegiate program, where all these other semi-pro leagues, you may or may not learn that, depending on what type of coach you get, what you're learning. So I think collegiate is such a better base for helping build you up as a player and as a person.
Yeah. Coach, I have one more question for you on the side of the player development side. Like, what is it that you are looking for in a captain?
Great question. So leadership, obviously, natural born leadership, though, someone that is going to speak up and already takes that role without you having to ask. Very often there is that one player that steps up. Our first semester, there was a player, his name was Otto. Gamer tag was Dynamite. Great, like 4-2 player, like fantastic. But he stepped up. He really took that role and ran with it. He had straight A's. He had fantastic GPA. I mean, he was doing everything the right way. So I was a no-brainer for me. When you have that natural leadership, you have someone performing in the classroom as well. You have all of these great things that a player can hold. That means a lot. And when you have a player that everybody can kind of model themselves after in some way, obviously not always, that's important to the program, and that's important to a team.
Gosh, yeah, that's so. I mean, it's a pretty common question now. Like, again, coaches have to make difficult decisions. Sometimes who you elect as captain may be a conflict in itself. It may not bode so well. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's such
and that's more preventive maintenance, right? That's more figuring out, always having these conversations with your players. I actually, before I even had the players do that, I pretty much said, okay, I'm going to have a captain that I'm going to assign. I individually asked every player, do you think this is a captain worthy player? And most of them said yes. And then the co-captain, I let the players assign. So it was me assigning, and then one them assigning. And I think that's probably one of the best structures that you can have when assigning captains, because there isn't, there's still that player that the players like and can confide in, that may not always be the captain, right? So
gosh, no,
that could help.
Well said. Again, great strategy, great mindset. It's almost like a fair distribution of power there. There is power in the coach in what they're seeing from a third party perspective. And then there's the power in the players as a collective unit to know, hey, this is what's happening inside that first player perspective, first view perspective. Excellent. Coach Metal, I mean, I can't believe how time has flown. So we're coming close to that time. And if I may, I ask this to all of our special guests. If you can, take us home with some words of wisdom, that'd be great.
First, I want to actually shout out Colin, Jerry, and Amy. What they're doing in the office and what they're doing for esports in general is amazing. They're pushing for a lot of great things. I know Colin does so many things on the backside that not a lot of players see. So I respect that a lot. And Jerry takes my day-to-day questions that may drive him insane, and a lot of my frustrations. And my frustrations purely come from the love of wanting to see Fresno State esports grow. But he really paints a better picture for me, a realistic picture for me that says, hey, this stuff's happening, but it's just taking a little bit of time. Just that's the CSU way of things, right? It doesn't always come in one day. Rome wasn't built in a day, and
Yeah.
something that I have to be reminded of because I do have that go nature in a way to see things grow. But from that, I just wanted to have a quick shout out of that, and I appreciate you guys for dealing with my passion per se. But really, I just wanted to hit home with just making sure that everybody realizes that this is so much more than just people sitting down or students sitting down and playing games, right? I've been over a lot of this. I'm not going to repeat everything that I've said, but I want to make sure that is something that everybody takes away from this is the students are learning so much more. And this is a quality program to be a part of. There have been students that have come out of their shell and become an absolute different person. There's videos up on our social media, Fresno State ES, of that exact thing, explaining how they've become a better person, how they've come out of their shell, what the program has done for us or for them. And I think that's one thing I'd love for you guys to really get out of this.
Love that. Love that. My goodness. Coach Metal, can't thank you enough, honestly, for the time you've dedicated at Fresno and, even just taking time out of your day to meet with us here at Dominguez. Love what you're doing. Love the culture that has been infused in Fresno, and love that the students are still leading the charge despite, very difficult times. And, again, a true notion of character, especially during times of adversity. So keep at it. I know we'll definitely be touching base. We've got to get a scrim together at some point in the summer, so that'd be a lot of fun. And
I do want to say, though, I want to shout you out as well. And the way your program is structured, it's very unified. And I really respect the empowerment that you give your captains. You teach them natural leadership, or at least, not natural per se, right? But you teach them leadership, and you really, it's a lot of self-empowerment going on. And I really do respect what your program consists of and how you run it. It's different than ours, right? But there's a lot of benefits that come with that because the students get a lot out of it in that way as well. So I respect what you're doing over there once again.
Hey, man, thank you. That means a great deal. And again, as we're giving shout outs left and right, I'm going to give a big one to our producer who's with us, Yusuf Andrews. Without him, none of our production can be at this level. He does all things that makes us all look good. So thank you, Yusuf.
You're the man.
Yeah, he is the man and the legend as well. So, I just want to wish you all the best. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you for joining us. And yes, there will be a VOD after this. So stay safe, everybody. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you there. And I guess we got to do Go Bulldog, Go Toros on 3. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Go Bulldogs.
Go Toros. All right. We'll see you, everybody. Take care.